Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Dr. John Mutunga is the MP representing Tigania West, the chair of the Agriculture Committee. Sheila Olang is a development economist. Kidi Mwaga, lawyer, and also the convener of the Interparties Youth Forum. Ahmed Hashi is governance and political commentator. Sheila, yes.
I just wanted to give a brief comment because I think sometimes as professionals it's important that we set the stage so that we have our information, or we contextualize the information we have. There's a lot of statistics that is usually given on the macroeconomic indicators. So we're discussing the GDP, we are discussing that we have an inflation rate that has now gone down compared to when President Ruto started until now. All of this, I tell people, whether you like it or not, it is a fact. It is true that the macroeconomic indicators are in fact going on the correct trajectory. But why are you still seeing a lot of unrest? It is because this is an issue of political economy. You cannot have macro indicators, but you don't have the micro indicators in check, and then you expect the public to be okay. What does this mean? It means that in Kenya today, our Gini index, the gap between the very wealthy few who have the money pocketed and the masses at the bottom is quite high. Right? The second thing is we have a purchasing power as a country that is being completely disabled. What do I mean by this? Purchasing power basically means that you as Ayub are able to go to the shop and say, today I have 10,000 shillings at the end of the month, and I can go and I can do my supermarket, shopping kidogo 5,000 and I go home. Today, you have increased taxes, so that 10,000 you are earning has now been decreased. At the same time, you don't have a good flow of, the macro economy that is moving around. So what we need to ask ourselves today, what does it take to drive the micro part of the economy? Forget the macro. What does it take to make sure at the end of the day, you as a small business, that you have your business, it is secured, that it is safe, that you're able to go and you trade and you're going back and forth. And I have to say, we're dealing with a systemic issue here. We're dealing with an issue that is beyond an individual. And since the unrest started last year, Ayub, I am yet to see one proposal that is coming up and saying we have a systemic issue. We have 75% of this population that is unemployed, that is the youth. They're unemployed, there's nowhere to absorb them. And please, anyone who's coming here to tell us, we are sending them abroad, please, come on. You can't, you have 75% of a population. If your plan is to send 75% of this population abroad, I don't know which country is going to absorb 75% of this population. We have to fix it. We have to roll up our sleeves and fix it in-house. And that is what we're trying to say. All the legislations that are being proposed, now I'm glad the MP for Nairobi decided to withdraw it. Very quick to propose, how to quell the protest. Very quick to, have Subarus that are unmarked with people. That will not stop it, because once again, you're dealing with the majority. And we have to be a bit careful. I was reading a lot about how uprisings usually turn into revolutions. And it's important for us to look at take some case studies. Where has there been an uprising that has been quelled? And where has there been an uprising that turned into a revolution? Yes. Case studies, Bangladesh. Bangladesh had a similar issue than what we have now. You had a case where you had a lot of disenfranchised young people who felt the similar things that the Gen Zs in Kenya feel today. And you saw how Bangladesh ended up. Yes. So this is a systemic problem. And I believe in our constitution. I don't believe in overthrowing anyone from any position. We have to use the right means. Okay. Both sides of the aisle have to respect and fight for that constitution. Okay.
And the case of Sheikh Hasina you talked about in Bangladesh, and the student-led demonstration,
it was student-led, it was Gen Z-led.
Her government and the Awami League, which is today seen as an enemy of.
And we don't want a case like that. Listen, we love Kenya, and I always say this all the time. All of this noise, they're saying we have to, if you really love Kenya, you're quiet. No, if you love Kenya, you tell Kenya the truth, you guide Kenya, and we roll up our sleeves, and we all take responsibility in fixing this country.
Kidi, coming to you, you have extensively written about economic inequalities in Kenya and how Parliament has facilitated that, especially in ensuring that it does cover its tracks with regards to how money is spent, especially the borrowed money. Yes. When we still are struggling with the case of the begging bowl culture, knocking on the Asian doors and the European American doors to borrow more money, again, misappropriate the same. The Honorable Lady Nancy Gathongo, doctor, had pointed out, the Auditor General, we even paid for commitment fee on money that we have not utilized. 6 billion in 4 financial years. How has Parliament failed the people in that pathway to inequality?
Michelle Mugo, while writing about Pan-Africanism, says that Africans must create liberated zones for Pan-Africanism. As young people are pushing for liberation of this country from the chokehold of the political class, particularly the greedy criminal political class, we must first start by creating liberated zones. And one of areas that we must start with is Parliament, because of how Parliament has enabled the economic collapse of this country. I will give you an example, that the 12th Parliament in 2019, Budget Committee has 51 members. Members of the Budget Committee of the 12th Parliament received 50 million each to justify some of the Eurobond theft to the tune of 150 billion. And they justified that by saying that almost the 150 billion had been spent on military modernization. In part, they were using military as a scapegoat because, we do not oversight the military spending. So the biggest, weakest link in this country is Parliament. And while the country is collapsing today, you realize that members of Parliament, both National Assembly and the Senate, have prioritized short-term personal self-aggrandizement. And that is a tragedy, and that tragedy we shall help stop by, one, as my brother Hashi has said, calling for Supreme People's Convention so that we are able to speak about the challenges around debt, the challenges around economy, in part because this administration, and when I say this administration, I mean the executive and Parliament, have refused to convene a session where the people of Kenya can be told where the 6 trillion shillings went to. Again, if you look at our books, about 6 trillion shillings, Kenya shillings, cannot be accounted for. 6 trillion shillings would turn around the economy in such fantastic ways. Thank you.
Okay, yes, Dr. Mutunga.
Interestingly, I've decoded. When we speak to Kenyans, let us be factual and let us be truthful.
Yes.
I was a member of Parliament from 2017 to 2022.
Yes.
Before the election, and then re-elected. And from 2017, when I entered Parliament, to 2020, yeah. I was a member of the Budget Committee, Budget and Appropriation Committee. I'm actually shocked that I received 50 million shillings when I have never received a cent. I think we need to tell Kenyans the truth. There has never been anything like that. And I'm not saying it. By the way, Abdikadir, I would like to have 50 million shillings. Yeah. But unfortunately, I never got a cent. There was no such an issue. Secondly, the total number of members of Budget and Appropriation Committee was 21.
Not 51.
It is this time that they have 27. Right now they are 27. They were not 51. So please, let's tell Kenyans the truth. Why do you have to come on a national television and lie? And even you are saying you're a scholar. What kind of scholarly journals do you read? I'm a PhD holder. I know what people should be telling the others. I think you should just stop cheating Kenyans. So, number two, now, when you come here and say that we need to create liberated zones, yeah. Let's look at the entire Kenyan economy. What will you liberate? I think the basic issue here, the basic question, what are we doing to solve the problem we have? To create jobs, what are we doing? What efforts are being made? And I've said countries went through a process, and we avoided that process. We are trying the service industry and so on. We avoided our key, productive sectors, investing in productive sectors.
Include agriculture?
Today, agriculture is number 9 priority in terms of funding in Exchequer. If we are number 9, and we have more than 72% of the population is completely in agriculture, 100%.
Yes.
They eat from agriculture, they educate their children from agriculture, they travel from agriculture and everything. So if we give it the very last, positioning, in terms of, it has been given 57 billion this year. So 57 billion, you try to share it out, and you cannot. I share that budget. You cannot do anything useful. So most of the essential services are avoided. Let me also come back and comment on an issue.
Okay, as you proceed, how then are we making that gross policy miscalculation on the part of a sector that otherwise would have? And if you hear the president, and if you hear the president, when he even launched his manifesto, he was very big on economy, talking about what you have produced.
He talked about several sectors.
If we are to then become an export-oriented economy, and then we are underfunding such a key sector, then isn't that gross policy?
I can give you a very specific example. We have a leather tannery, a leather tannery, a factory that would absorb maybe 2,000 Kenyans instantly. It lacks about 1.2 billion shillings. This year it was given 200 million. So they're going to wait for another several years before. And it is just at the deep end. And what this would do is that it will turn over so much income to the farmer. Why? Because the leather industry, the skin of an animal is more valuable than the entire meat, the entire animal. So you would basically make more jobs, make more money by opening up that factory.
Through value addition.
But we have not been able to allocate money to that sector. So our prioritization is wrong. And we are not saying it here. We have said it in all the places that matter. We don't prioritize the key, important, productive sectors that will turn around this economy. We look at others. Yeah. So we are educating people a lot, and I have nothing against education. Yeah. We put so much money in education, only to get more educated people, and then... Now, the other issue is that I would like to ask Hamid what he meant that the subsidy, the input subsidy has not worked. We have not imported food for the last 3 years. I mean, we have had enough food, we have produced enough food. And this is basically because, number one, we have taken care of soil health through the fertilizer subsidy. Soil health is key. We are providing good seed through our research system and the distributor system of the seed. And then God has been magnanimous enough to give us rain. Probably if we didn't have rain, we would have had a problem.
Yeah.
She'll reply to you.
Yeah, and the Kenya National Bureau of... And the Kenya National Bureau of...
Yeah, that's
Can I reply a little bit? Because, sorry, as an economist, I hear this and I'm like, no, let's understand a few things here and there. Yeah. Yes, we have had an increase in food production. Even the inflation rates that we are discussing that are going well now is because we had an increase in food production. So you're completely right. Where you are completely then going wrong is this is bahati, it is luck. The fact that we had rained. This was not because of proper planning, irrigation schemes, and ensuring that next year we don't have the same
food production went very high up because of the rains and inflation.
When we are discussing budgets, when we're discussing budgets and budgetary planning, I think what we are trying to discuss here is that we don't leave it to chance. Is that we are saying, personally, we have 60% of this country that is relying on agriculture. So it's one of the crucial sectors that we have. And if you look at the budget, it does not reflect this importance that we have. And by the way, agriculture is one of the ways to guarantee a lot of employment. These employment issues we're talking about, the youth, it would be a very easy way to absorb them in, having value addition to the product, not just producing food that we eat. In terms of, you can focus on some positive things that are going on. For example, we have the coffee sector. Yeah. We have the cooperatives and coffee sector and cooperatives. Whether we don't talk a lot about it, but that sector is growing and it's doing very well. So why don't you invest more in that? Then you have more people.
Let me correct something. No, I need to correct something. Excuse me.
No, excuse me.
Yes, I'll come to Dr.
Now. Let's give each other a bit of space.
We need to tell Kenyans the truth.
Yeah, we want to tell the truth. Dr. Mutunga voted for the tax bill.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
The first one, because the one which was in the social media is not the bill that was in Parliament.
Just 1 second. Yeah. No, let's talk about facts.
I voted for the...
Can you wait, give me a chance? Yeah. Our member of Parliament for Tigani was voted for the tax bill that the entire Kenyan people rejected. And protest went all the way to the National Assembly. Yeah. Don't think that my colleague has the moral authority to speak to us about taxes. The whole people of this country has rejected. This line is the line of the government. If the government was doing its job, and there was 10% growth in the economy. The agricultural sector was doing fine. It was exporting tea in a robust way and making all kinds of value added. These demonstrations of young people would not be in this country. And I would not be sitting here trying to defend the public. The second thing is that my good friend on the right has said that there is massive corruption. Mr. Utunga, of course, he's an educated man. He does not take any bribes. But we know that this National Assembly...
I actually don't.
Yes. No, that's exactly what I'm saying. But you see, the National Assembly has been bought. And the allegations are not from me. They were talking about 2 million shillings being given during the time. Well, no, just wait. This is what is in the public allegations. I just said that. But the tax bill, which my learned friend there had voted for, has been rejected by the people of this Kenya. It has been rejected by the people of Tigania East. Tigania East is West. Tigania West. And these are just facts. Now, to add to the injury, Mr. Ayub, I put it to you that it is very important for us to tell the truth to the country. But nobody has a monopoly on the truth, I put it to you. Neither does our learned friend Dr. Mutunga have it, nor do I have it. What we are calling for is a national discussion and a national way forward so that this kinds of bedlam that is going on in the country stops.
Okay, yes, Kid.
Yes, one, I think that Mr. Mutunga gets very agitated. Some of this, listen, Mr. Mutunga, I am not a member of the listen, Mr. Mutunga, I am not a member of the National Assembly, and therefore, as a scholar, part of my work is to look up these matters. So when an article, listen, when something has been written and posted and it has not been fact-checked, then there is an expectation that it is the truth. So listen, I might have erred, but let's start from here. One, you must also conduct yourself with a bit of grace. Because remember, when the country was going down, in part, because people like yourself voted for finance bill in 2024. You voted for finance bill 2024. Finance bill 2024 almost brought the country down.
It's not the finance.
I wish, yes, you voted for finance bill. We have
the record.
It is the record is showing here that in 2024 you voted for finance bill. The finance bill 2024 did not take into account a lot of things about this country.
We're not being intimidated. We're debating.
I cannot intimidate you. You're a daktari.
We're talking.
You're a member of Parliament.
I did vote yes, and I'll say why.
I am just a young man from Kanu, manning the policy desk. So my point is, Mr. Mutunga, that when we say these things, we do not say them out of mischief. Secondly, remember that when we say, if you look at the way institutions have collapsed in this country, and collapsing, I mean, in terms of public confidence. Today, we have, for instance, the police having an approval rating of 26%. Parliament is not doing any better. By the way, there is the survey out there is indicating that we are going to replace at least 92% of MPs. You could be one of them. What we are saying is Parliament has let the people of Kenya down. And when we say the Parliament has let the people of Kenya down, you know that we introduced an amendment to the Public Finance Management Act that then allowed the CS for Treasury to spend money that is borrowed before that money hits the consolidated fund. You know the consequence of that amendment. Those are the things we are saying. Okay. We are not here to mislead the people of Kenya, and we are not here to incite the people of Kenya. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. You have a point.
Yeah, three things. Yeah. Number one, first of all, for you to increase production and productivity, the two are related.
Yes.
You must take care of the health of the soil. That is science. It's not debate. It's science. Yeah. Soil health is primal. The second issue is the quality of the seed. And the third issue is water. So those three must resonate. They must be together. So if the soil health was not improved, even if you had all the rain, even if inundation fell here, we would not have better crop. I mean, we would not have as good a crop as you had because of the fertilizer subsidy. So please, let's give credit where it is worth.
But what kind of fertilizer did we get?
We can get to the details. That was a small issue towards the end. Please, let's not sensationalize issues.
The farmers.
Excuse me.
Let him make his point, yeah.
Can we actually...
Ideally, then, Daktari, to point that out, because you are the professional in that...
I know. This is what I know, and this is what I did in school.
Yeah. Okay. How do we make it?
So, we are not talking about mates here. We are not making presumptions.
Yes.
These are not pronouncements.
It's time. Let him make
That is the truth. The fact is, you must take care of the soil where you are growing the crop, for the crop to get the minerals to grow. So soil health is primal. If you grow the best seed without improvement of the soil health, without giving the nutrition, it will not give you anything. Even if you put all the water on that, it will not give you anything. So the three are intrinsic factors. They are called intrinsic factors towards improvement of productivity. So it is not just luck. It is that luck plus the fertilizer subsidy. Number two, I want to agree with you that corruption is an issue in Kenya. Everybody knows it's an issue in Kenya, and it has played its role. And if we wanted to start anything today, we must be aware that everybody in this country is likely to be inclined to some level of corruption. Well, what am I trying to say? If you are so clean and you are given a position where you basically know there will be some form of, influence, would you say no? How many people, Kenyans, have said, no, I can't go there because somebody will come and say, okay, I would like to get this contract and so on and so forth. Those are the things that we need to face. If we have to move into the future, and the youth are speaking to this, we must clean up. And in cleaning up, we must be able to set up a mechanism that is self-supervising and self-regulating, to be sure that you can monitor what the other person is doing without getting influence from anywhere. That is where the path to get out of where we are.
But Daktari, aren't we then making some very grave miscalculations here, especially when you say decisions must be made because of the watchful young people in the country? When the president was granted the opportunity to reorient the country in 2024, because of what we witnessed with the likes of Kipchumba Murkomen, who were flashy and displayed opulence, the same person was then pushed to the youth docket and is today the Minister for Interior and has ordered shoot-to-kill orders. I mean, then what does that say in the face of the public, the young people you have talked about?
First of all, I don't want to comment on anything that the president has to do because I'm not the president and I have no capacity to do that. I am not mandated to do that. So I wouldn't comment on that.
Said wrong.
But the issue on what Kipchumba Murkomen said was wrong. But did you remember what he said clearly?
Yes, I do.
Can you play that clip?
Yeah, I do.
Because Kipchumba Murkomen said, if this, we are call them goons. You've got a word, we have coined the word goons, are forcing their way into the police station, focusing on pushing out the police and taking arms. My friend, that's what he said, you have to protect the armory. I remember Uhuru Kenyatta said the same thing. Matiang'i saying more or less the same thing. So I don't see why it is so much of an issue now.
Uhuru is not on record for saying that.
I have a clip.
Yes.
He's actually dressed in red.
Yeah, where did he speak?
I will send you the clip.
Now, the clip. I mean, if he...
Let me
if you remember what he wore, then you must remember what he said.
Yeah, he said he gave the orders to shoot to kill.
Yeah, what did he say?
Let me give you the clip.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you the clip.
Thank you.
Now, let me respond on something about politicizing some of these discussions and trying to say we must do this, we must do the other. We do not have two countries. We have only one country called Kenya. All of us. Not people in Nairobi, not people around towns, not people in the urban centers. All the people who are Kenyans have one country called Kenya. We know we have a problem, and the greatest problem we have is unemployment or lack of livelihood support systems. So let us see how we can focus on dealing with that problem, not sensationalizing discussion.
Yes.
Finally, I voted on the finance bill.
Voted on the finance bill.
But I know we debated on this finance bill many times. The finance bill which was in Parliament that was passed is not the finance bill which was in the media and social media that was discussed
2020.
all over. I'm sorry, 2024.
Wow.
It was the wrong...
Thank
That's
you.
not fair.
You made your point.
I think that this is not a lecture on seeds and agricultural input, and neither am I going to give a lecture on economics and government. But it is the public debate about the issues of this country.
Sure.
The first issue that we have is whether few people are going to drink champagne, or everybody is going to get water.
Yes.
Yeah.
The great Thomas Sankara from Burkina Faso put it very plainly. One of the most important issue about leadership is being succinct. The ability to show the people where the road is. I agree with my learned friend on the left there about the one country that we have. But it should not be used as a bogey. It should not be used as a blackmail. It should not be used against the citizens of this country. That if you don't, if you play around too much, we are going to lose our country and everybody's going to suffer. That's not politics. That's blackmail. What we need to do is to have a discussion on one issue. And that one issue is youth unemployment. I think that's the most important issue that we have in this country. Sure. Because if we get the youth employed, these demonstrations and this crisis that we're in will fail.
And we know people.
Now, the second thing is, I also agree with my learned friend on the left that this issue has been there since independence. And the youth have waited for a very long time for us to make a leap forward, like the Pacific countries, Korea and all these. It has not happened. 80% of the overwhelming majority of the people of this country are unemployed, underemployed, or working poor. That's another issue that we need to be specific. So what is the president's economic ideas about this? Have they helped? I put it to you that they haven't helped. The last casualty who resigned from the economic advisory team yesterday, your friend Moses Kuria. If Moses Kuria is advising the president on the economy of this country, and Ahmed Haji is sitting here, and Sheila Olang and our doctor and our young man is sitting here, and then we're in Golgotha. We cannot believe for one moment that the former member from Gatundu has been running economic policy. I mean, no wonder we're in the doldrums that we're in. So I put it to you, Mr. Ayub, and we need to forcefully support the people of Kenya, including the people of Tigania West, who supply our community with a very important agricultural product. So I do not want to fight the people of Tigania West, but I oppose my my member of parliament from there because he voted for that tax bill, which his people rejected.
Yes.
And we're going to see the people of Tigania West crucify him in the next election because of his vote.
Yes, Ayub, no, I should it's my turn.
You hope it will
I think
happen.
it's my turn.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think we must say this. When we have National Assembly staffed with elegant men like Dr. Mutunga, we expect them to be the conscience of the House.
Yes.
And you expect them that when the House is slipping to the left or to the right, they might help bring the House back to the center. But you hear Ms. Dr. Mutunga is still defending the Finance Bill 2024. Let us agree that that was a bad bill.
Yes.
The president rejected
The mother
it.
of our troubles.
The president rejected it, and it almost burnt the country. In a scenario of personal responsibility, possibly Dr. Mutunga would have resigned already, because we must bring him up to speed with the consequences of his actions. By voting for that finance bill and enraging the young people as he did, that young people stormed Parliament, two things have happened. One is that the House has lost all legitimacy. Secondly, the executive has also lost its social license to govern. That is why, in the last 1 year since the day Parliament was breached to date, what Kenyans have witnessed has been pain after pain after pain. Why? Because the administration, in its wisdom or lack of it, has then decided to subdue the people by using violence. So that we started with abductions, we went to forced disappearances, we went into the killings that we witness every day. And what this has done, instead of subduing the people, it has actually enraged the people and fortified people's resolve for a better government. What we should have heard from the likes of Dr. Mutunga, the very elegant member of this panel, is that we get to a place where we say that the government is unable to transact. How then do we restore the legitimacy, even in a small way, for the government to transact? From the desk of the young people, particularly at the Interparties Youth Forum, I revisit what Mr. Ashi said, that then we now call for a Supreme People's Convention. Part of why we are calling for a Supreme People's Convention, again, is not to overthrow the government, because I believe in the Constitution myself. Most of these young people filling the streets do not want to overthrow their government, but they want a government that delivers. So in a Supreme People's Convention, we can then say, what are the problems, intricate problems, that Parliament should have discussed, but has failed to discuss. From where I sit, public debt. Mr. Mutunga should have come here and told us that in the last 3 years, as Parliament, this is what we have done to answer ourselves the question of public debt, particularly in the area of odious debt and the economy. How do we feed our people? Restoration of the rule of law, because the rule of law is collapsing every day in this country. Institutions stand repudiated. One of them is Parliament, another one is National Police Service, among others. Education and healthcare are not in their best forms. Those are things that young people of Kenya want an immediate answer to, not the shadowboxing that we see in Parliament, and a bit of it is being replayed on this panel. Thank you.
Yes, Sheila. And Daktari, for right to welcome to you, yes, please.
I think as a country, we need to start having dialogue and conversations on conflict resolution and how we would like to move forward. I think we need to really shift the gear and start being much more solution-oriented, because if we start thumping our chests, at the end of the day, we're not going to move anywhere. I would like to remind everybody there's a 12-year-old who died watching TV in the safety and comfort of her house last night, yesterday.
The previous night, yeah.
Yeah, the previous night, you know? And there's 30 people who are now dead. So as we have these conversations, we really need to stick towards what are we going to do to find a way forward. Mine is very simple. We have a systemic problem. So the more you try to put band-aids on a systemic problem, the worse the situation gets. What is the systemic problem here? Again, it is the economy, it is the economy, it is the economy.
The economy is stupid.
It's the economy. I mean, someone says it's the economy.
Stupid, yeah.
Yes, and I can tell you now, as someone towing the two lines between politics and economy, right now, the politics is being amplified quite a lot, and the economy is just losing track. So you have to mix the two. What we are saying is, in relation to this conversation, I would like to see systemic planning on these issues. You're sitting here from agriculture. Agriculture accounts for 60% of our economy. That's a huge number. So when I see the budget, there's two things I would like to look at when I see the budget. I would like to see either a reflection of a reinforcement that we'd like to reinforce this 60%, or we say as a country we're shifting direction. We'd like to move away from agriculture, and now we're moving towards whatever, service industry. That's why we're pumping a lot of money in education. A sense of direction and economic planning. That is what we're alluding to. You have countries that don't even have the soil we have, don't even have the rains we have, and they have a surplus in production. Look at production in agriculture in places like Egypt.
Israel.
Yeah.
Deserts that have no business producing the amount of food they're producing. Why is that? It is not because of, rocket science. It is just planning.
Government.
It is because you have decided that my economic plan for the country, there are some countries that decided their economic plan would be centered on service. Case in point, Singapore. Singapore decided that it would focus on education so that it can provide service. And that's why you have Singapore today. It was a conscious decision in economic planning that they made. So as a country, what is the plan? If the plan is agriculture, can we see that reflected in the budget? Can we see that reflected? And again, you can unleash all the police you want. You can shoot everybody you want. But I remind everybody, it is 75% of this population. So they're not going anywhere. And even if you try to export to jobs, wherever you're exporting, you can't do it for 75%. We have to fix this in-house. That is the simple reality that we're dealing with. And as young people, Ayub, we have sat, we have listened, we have prayed, we have hoped, and now it's just time to act. It's time to act, and we are protecting that constitution. If nobody is going to protect it, we are going to protect that constitution.
Yes.
Yes, Ahmed, I'll come to you, Daktari.
Thank you very much. I think we are speaking more or less the same language. There is no level of force that can keep hungry people
out of the streets.
Out of the streets. There is no level of coercion that can do that. Secondly, when people have no means of livelihood, then we will need to provide that, or we have to deal with what is happening right now. And that is one of the genesis of the problems we have. However, we should also not rule out politics in all this. Because the first Gen Z demonstration, the weapon they had was a telephone, a phone.
And a message.
And a message. And nobody in disrupting those demonstrations. Now, later on, they were infiltrated by others. Everybody, politicians who want to gain mileage out of this congregation, then there has been so much of pollution of that particular, the strategy they took. So we would like to say that coming out and voicing their concern constitutionally is very correct, and it's important for Kenyans to realize that, of course, people are aware we are not doing enough, even as those people in leadership. Now, when it comes to looking at the police force, which I really have avoided so far, because I should not talk about the police and killing. But when you look at the killings that occurred in the last Sabasaba demos, some of the people were found in their houses, going about their business, and then stray bullets passed through. Why do we have stray bullets flying around? First of all, there must have been maybe lack of containment of the situation as it were, and then it called for that. That's my belief, my imagination. Now, if we have to keep the police away and the people out of the streets, let us solve the basic problem, which we all know. And the only thing we can do that is creating opportunities. And we have to create these opportunities very quickly. Why are we saying very quickly? Because people will not wait for too long. So, and we cannot say revolution is a solution. And I'm not trying to say this to intimidate Kenyans. No, I'm saying we need to face reality and ask ourselves, how do we reorganize what we have? The little that we have is our budget today. To what extent are maybe ministries, departments, and agencies ready to take a budget cut so that we may create a fund to focus specifically on creation of employment? Yes. Those decisions need to be made, and those decisions can be made constitutionally. Again, we are bound by this constitution. We must have a national conversation. Yes. People must say, we want to do this. Maybe we want to reduce services in this area and so on. Okay. I know what you want to say. I also want to say, before you say it,
I agree with you, actually.
There is the issue of waste.
I'm about to agree with you.
I'm aware there's a lot of waste in some of these MDAs, ministries, department, and if we also took a conscious decision to cut down on waste and refocus these resources now to employment, not to do anything else, to employment, we would basically solve partly some of the problems we have. So we need a conscious decision and the clear and systematic steps to take in order to drive this country back to what it's supposed to be. Otherwise, at this point, we are at the crossroads. There's nobody who is safe. This gracious lady gave us the solution, gave us our statistics about the numbers in terms of income, and disparities in income distribution.
Before you move to the income aspect, because you have proposed a pathway to how then we can remedy the situation. Should that conscious decision then start with State House, which has an increment of more than 600 million Kenya shillings?
What I would like to say is that it should affect every sector.
Smart man.
Every department. I said MDAs. Ministries, departments, and agencies. If State House is an agency, should be included there. So all of them must be able to agree to a budget cut without necessarily affecting the functions of that particular. It is possible. It has happened. Sometimes we have not had resources to run, and the country moves. So we need to take this on as a problem and consider solving it in that particular way. There's no other way.
Ahmed, is that a proper diagnosis of the problem?
I think that my good friend, the doctor, has shifted gears and is now proposing something that we can all debate about and walk towards a solution in this country. The first thing that I have to say is the buck stops with the president. The president must do two things. He must stop, he must think, and he must listen. If the president continues on this path, these young people will topple this government. There's nothing they can do. There's nothing the Kenya Army can do about it. Nothing the police can do about it. They bring here 10 million people. We are kaput. We don't want that. But the young people are not going to allow for abductions to continue, for plainclothes policemen to shoot people in my hometown of Ngong in Kajiado County. The young people of this country, and the overwhelming majority of these people in the country, are not going to accept that it is Mount Kenya who are bringing thugs to the street, and it's Mount Kenya wants to overthrow the government of Kenya. This is ethnicizing. It's causing more fuel into the fire. It is not the people of Mount Kenya who are doing this. This is a historical period in which the post-colonial state is going through a transformation. They have to understand these things scientifically. We have to understand ethnicity scientifically. We have to understand the economy scientifically. The kind of language that is coming out from senior members of the government is just appalling, and it is causing Mr. Ruto more grief than any help. There is two things that the government has to do. It either chooses coercion or it chooses consent. Now, if it chooses coercion, it will fail. if he chooses consent, the ability for this country to have a national conversation about this problem, we will win. The first thing the president needs to do is to form a government of national unity in this country. That is my view. It should come not only from political parties, it should not come from any other group. The president is in charge of this country, he's the commander-in-chief, and he's the one who's going to sign on everything that is being debated in this country. We want him to come and come back to us and ask for an election, and to tell us that he has a good record and that he wants to be president again. And we will go and choose someone else and either choose, throw him out of office and bring someone else, because this is the process of electoral democracy that we have. But if we do not have a national convention on the issues, the economic and political issues of this country, on police reform, on the youth employment, on all these issues that are stagnating this country, the president needs our help. This is, we have to be magnanimous. I am not a person who wants to just criticize the president for nothing. We also have to help him, because we live in the same country together. And therefore, the president has to get out of the path of not listening. He has to get out of the path of playing bravado. He has to get out of the path of being the pastoralist with two guns in his hips on the OK Corral. He has to move away from this coercive kinds of psychological thinking and say, Kenya, we are in trouble. I see it. The bubble is here, it's exploded. What shall we do? And my learned friend from Tigania West has said as much as I am saying. What we need is talking, dialogue, and not coercion. And we need to directly engage in a national convention, the representatives of the Gen Z, and they're there and we know them, who the leaders. I know who their leaders are. I know, I'm not a Gen Z, I'm not their leader. I'm a public intellectual who's trying to fix our country. Now, lastly and most importantly, the great Abraham Lincoln, in his second inaugural, one of the greatest speeches, they don't teach that in school anymore, they used to teach us these things, was confronted with the crisis of the American state over the issue of slavery and civil rights. He was confronted with it. And he showed leadership. Mr. Lincoln was not ready to abolish slavery, but he had to protect the Union at all costs. And the president has to protect this country at all costs, no matter where it leads him. No matter where it leads him. But it must protect the state and this country, and we must solve these issues that are there. And in that speech, he said that slavery, if it had piled all this wealth into this country, that if we had to burn that wealth to move forward, that the President of the United States was willing to do that. The President needs to be very courageous and to absolutely reject these people who are giving him this advice. And if it is him who is doing it, then we're in bigger trouble than I thought.
Yes, Kedi, and the former Prime Minister had suggested a conclave, but how ideal should that be? And what is the framework if then it's to materialize and give solutions to the problems that we are facing?
Well, I hope that the Right Honorable, the Prime Minister, was not calling for by calling for a conclave. Conclave by its very nature is elitist and exclusive. Usually not everyone is allowed into the conclave. So even as a good Catholic, and you've traveled to Rome, at most you can only stand outside and watch and wait that will there be a white smoke or a black smoke. From where I sit, I remember about 2 weeks ago, I had the good fortune under the Interparties Youth Forum of hosting young people at Ufungamano. Those young people, most of them young aspirants, tasked me with the responsibility to engage in shuttle diplomacy between many youth-serving organizations and other partners. A responsibility that I have attempted to discharge in small ways, but with a lot of diligence. What I hear from a lot of young people is that we do not need an elite settlement pact equivalent. Remember the problems around NADCO. NADCO, even before it was constituted, we had to engage in this push and shove about who should be in the committee and who should not. So remember forcing at some point to even drop the Otiende Amolo team. And subsequently, when we had we reconstituted the team under the guidance of SKM and Wandai, Opio Wandai, Waziri, then again the items to be discussed was also an issue. And I think that the young people have pointed out what are the governance problems, and it is very pointed. Secondly, I think that in the Supreme People's Convention, as it is being proposed by young people, is that we have political parties, we have faith-based organizations, and then we have the academia coming together, people like Mohamed Ashi coming in, and then we have appointed conversation, 7 days, 2 weeks maximum, on these issues that young people have raised. They raised them in 2024. They have restated them in 2025. And then, of course, there is also the conversation that we suspend the demos. In my view, I think that the demos should not be suspended indefinitely. That when the people sit together under the Supreme People's Convention and agree on some of these things, then the demos become a policy legislative implementation framework. So that we know that if Parliament does not implement this within this agreed time frame, then the young people can occupy. And I think that would be a legitimate occupation. That is my thinking. And post the convention, as this is implemented, then we can, these bodies, the political parties, the faith-based organizations, and the academia can then form a joint monitoring and evaluation commission. So that then this JOMEC then can constantly report to the people of Kenya that this is how far Parliament has gone in implementing this legislation, in implementing this policy, and I think that would be, in my view, could be a small way to move forward more intelligently. Thank you.
Sheila, if the opportunity that presented itself to the president did not meet the requirements or satisfy the needs of the young people, what then will the proposal by the former Prime Minister achieve?
I think we're also at a point where everyone is trying to offer a solution. So we need, that's why I keep insisting we have to listen to each other and we have to talk and we have to find a way forward. I think everybody, the good news is everyone is trying to find a solution. Even KDA is trying to find a solution. So let's take that on a very positive note. The second thing is, my personal opinion is that in Kenya, we never lack legislation. I mean, if you go back and check, we don't have a shortage of ideas. I think we have very good ideas. Can we just follow through and actually finish one of the ideas? I'll start with the agenda that President Ruto used when he was being elected in 2022. It was a bottom-up focus. If we just went back to focusing on that bottom, then we'll already have a good start ahead of us. We talk about the Prime Minister, Raila. I mean, there was a 10-point agenda that was used to formulate this broad-based government. Let's just go back to that. You'll find that everything we are asking for is still listed in that 10-point agenda, which included police brutality issues, compensation of victims. So it's not that there's a lack of ideas on the table here. I think we need to try and follow through. And can I just add that at the end of the day, as people who truly love this country, this lawlessness that we keep talking about, this now incitement of different tribes and this and that, it's terrible. The only reason it is coming up, it is because there's a vacuum. These people came in and they said, partyless, leaderless,
everybody got confused.
Tribeless, they said this. And because nobody has stepped up to the plate and responded to their demands, now tribes are coming up, leaders are coming up, everyone is coming up and try to take over and take advantage, including goons, including criminals and the rest of them. Yeah. For me, it's just a cry that there was a vacuum there to steward this conversation. And I've said this before, that last year when we went to the streets, we offered a very, very good opportunity for the leadership, the president, and everybody else to step up to the plate and listen to what the people were crying about. And I mean this even at grassroots level. Even if you're a member of parliament in your constituency, if you went down and you heard what they were saying and the issues affecting them at that constituency level, what you needed to do then is ask yourself, between last year and now, as a member of parliament, as the MC, as a women rep, as a governor, what have I done to address the issues that we were discussing last year? That's all it boils down to. Yes. Because as long as we have a leadership vacuum, somebody will take over and will decide for you what to do, how to think, and what to focus on. So I keep appealing more and more to the current leadership. I love the Constitution. I don't think anyone should be kicked out of any office prematurely, because that will just lead us all into chaos. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. We want them to step up to the plate. Our brother here is a member of parliament. If there's issues with your constituents, sit them down, say, for us, this is the focus that we would like to have. Solve it, because nobody wants to kick you out of being their representative. But as long as nobody steps up to the plate, somebody will have to lead.
Somebody will do something.
Somebody will have to propose a tribe.
Yep.
Somebody will have to propose an agenda. And that is what we're seeing now.
And at least Daktari for now has the political immunity until the next election. I'll come to Hash on the referendum question.
On the issue of where do we really need to go from here, I think it is very important for Kenyans to listen to each other. Let's stop name calling. Let's stop, any form of chest thumping. There's no one who is right and there's no one who is wrong. All of us have a problem.
Yep.
What we have right now, there's nobody who has all the solutions to the problems we are facing right now. Let's listen to each other and see exactly what do we need to do to solve the problem we have. Such that when anybody goes to the street, they are going there as per the Constitution. They are able to raise the issues without destroying anybody's property, without any debts occurring. Secondly, we cannot say that we have to keep on recruiting more and more police so that we can keep the state running. No, that's not the issue. The issue is making sure that we are able to attend to the needs of Kenyans. And I don't think the government in place is not doing this. Now, when it comes to the problem that we have, what would I probably think we could do? Number one, we need to quickly quantify, because we talk about figures that we are not very sure. I don't know whether the statistics we have the exact number of unemployed.
I think it's
we need to categorize them.
I think David, the last time spoke, said that it is about 18 million young people.
We need to also categorize them.
bigger than that.
And then, it's bigger because there are those who are not
Factored.
trained,
Yes.
but they need jobs. And those are the most dangerous because they are available for anything.
Yes.
So we need to, therefore, design mechanisms of absorbing these people.
Yes.
And that is the surest solution to peace in this country. So if we have to, everybody needs to be awake to this reality. Yes. Because you know what happens in government? Everybody goes to scramble for something to take to their constituency. For us, as far as we are concerned.
Yes.
Those who have no constituency to take to, they are scrambling to take them to their backyard. My friend, you will not be able to eat anything that you have acquired wrongly because Kenyans will come for you.
Come for you.
Yeah, the last word before I sample the feedback, Ahmed.
Anne Nyawira is in mourning today. She's from
The mother, yeah.
She's from Meru County. Her son, Kimutai, is from the Great Rift Valley. This is our Kenya today. We are in different ethnic interaction. Our children are marrying each other. There is interaction between the faiths. There's interaction in a whole broad spectrum. They killed a 12-year-old yesterday, Ayub.
12-year-old.
12-year-old.
Let that sink in.
Bright, her name was Bright Njoki. There is a human cost to this evil, what is happening. And if the president of this country does not grapple with the issues of law and order in this country and the issues of what the Constitution provides for us, we're moving to a huge tragedy. I put it to you, my dear brother. There's a saying in my language, it says, Barorto, Orgiga Kawi. It means that the language that is coming from the government is about building 1.2 billion shilling church in the State House. Isn't there other faiths in this country? Why doesn't he just call it a prayer house? Or is it a priority to have a 1.2 billion? And if the president is paying, if the president is paying him out of his pocket, what's the president's salary? These are the kinds of the messages and that the president should not speak from the hip. And that he has to have people who tell him, you can't say these things. But once you have those people who are afraid of him around him, fear, then nothing is going to happen. If the philosophy of the great philosophers of this country are Mr. Farouk Kibet, a member of Parliament from Kaptaret, then we're in big trouble. Mr. Ayub, we may ask our God to help our country, but God has given us the wisdom to help ourselves. And if we don't do it, then woe unto us.
The sample in the feedback here, the hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. So we hear what you're saying. On X, formerly Twitter, we are pulling that up for you shortly. We'll be getting to them, and this is part of your contributions here on the broadcast. And to sample them before we come to the top of the hour here on Daybreak alongside my able panelists here. We should be pulling that up for you as part of course, the treasure that you have accorded us and your company here on the broadcast. Frank Orinde says Kenya is at crossroads. The economy is struggling, jobs are scarce, and corruption is rampant. Extrajudicial killings erode public trust. The youth are in the streets demanding accountability, justice, and real change. Is the leadership okay? Finish up. J.M. Musoma says, is the leadership ready to listen? Okay. Next up is from J.M. Musoma. He says, it's so sad that trigger-happy police and goons left 31 Kenyans dead, hundreds hospitalized, and millions of property destroyed. But the president has not addressed the nation. How did you get here? What happened to the doctrine of sanctity of life? Baba Michael says, Ayub, with the call for dialogue from all quarters and lately from the ODM chief, it will be very difficult to have a sit-down with someone who has lost a son, daughter, a brother, or a relative through police brutality or a bullet without justice. Sam Masika says the KK regime has failed terribly. Instead of fostering an enabling environment where investors can thrive and create jobs, the government is making it harder for them by trying to take on the role of job creator itself. As a result, industries are shutting down instead of expanding, and opportunities are shrinking rather than growing. Frank Orinde says the president keeps recycling incompetent cabinet members and it's backfiring. From reckless statements to illegal shoot-to-kill orders, these appointees are embarrassing the very office they serve. Kenya deserves leadership, not loyalists on autopilot. And the last one from Sheila Sweden says, in the wake of so many depressing activities going on in our beloved Kenya, a conclave isn't the right way to have a dialogue. We should openly come together and have a national conversation on how we can redirect our nation to normalcy. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
Kidi Mwaga, lawyer, asante sana, much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Ahmed Hashi, thank you. Sheila, thank you.
You did a great job.
Dr. Mutunga, thank you. Good morning.